Hello, and welcome to our class, Introduction to World Religions. I am Dr. Ulri. My specialty is Hinduism, though I tend to study all of the religions of India, but I also am an expert in Tibetan Buddhism as well. This course is not going to be your usual world religions course. The usual world religions course just kind of has you memorize all these different sort of facts and tidbits about different religions. What I want to do is not only present all of the main religions of the world, we will be looking at Islam, Sikhism, Jainism, Buddhism, Hinduism, fair amount of Christianity. But I want you to think more widely about what is religion and what are the world religions. Now, we are going to do some kind of thinking about what do we actually believe, but we're going to be studying also the religions of other people. So I will be asking you sort of your opinions and to do some self-analysis, but this course isn't a self-exploration as much as it is an exploration of our world and how people are religious in our world. For today, I'm doing this quick introduction, and then I'm going to read through the syllabus. Now, why do I read through the syllabus? If we were going to be in person, I would be reading through the syllabus so I could make sure that we've all read it together. We all agree. Now, there's not a lot of back and forth in an asynchronous class. So I'm going to read through the syllabus, and I'll give you some comments as we go along. But I just want us to all be on the same page, and then we will start with our first lecture on Wednesday. It will be based on course contents. So without further ado, let's get to it. Let me just share my screen for a second here, and then we will be ready to go. All right, so the syllabus is tentative, so I want you to look at Blackboard to really see what's going on in the modules. I'm going to make changes often to assignments as we go along. So the course is 2601, Introduction to World Religions. Who is it? It's me. I am Dr. Ulri. My name is Aaron Michael Ulri. I got my PhD from University of California, Santa Barbara, a bunch of years back. I am an expert in magic. I also study Hinduism for the most part, though I tend to give a lot of lectures on the religion of Jainism, which we'll talk about in the course, specifically Jain Tantra. My specialty overall is Tantra and magic as it relates to the Indic religions and the religions of Tibet. This class is online. It is on Blackboard, as you can see, as it's being hosted. Now, it's asynchronous. This means that the lectures and modules are going to be opened up Monday and Wednesday morning, and you'll have deadlines on Friday and Sunday, in fact, at 2 p.m. Why 2 p.m.? You are going to complain about this. Students always do. Here's the thing. I want to give you as much time as possible. So if you would like me to change the time, you will invariably say, why can't it be Friday at 11:59 and Sunday at 11:59? Well, that doesn't work for me for grading. I can change it to Thursday night at 11:59, but I want to give you, 14 more hours. And I could change it to Saturday at 11:59, but who wants to have a deadline on a Saturday night? I start grading at noon on Friday and Sunday. That's just how my schedule works. So I'm trying to give you as much time as possible. I live in Denver, so I'm on mountain time. So when you're interacting with me or need to schedule a meeting with me in any way, just be aware of that. I'm 2 hours behind you. I am Professor Aaron Michael Ulri, and I will ask you to call me Dr. Ulri. Why do I have you call me Dr. Ulri? It's not because I like hearing the name doctor. You can call me Dr. Ulri, you can call me Professor Ulri. Do not call me Mr. Ulri, and do not call me by my first name. Why is this? Well, I've had a lot of interactions with people of color and women who can't get students to regularly call them professor or doctor when they should be. So in solidarity with all the other professors of the world, call me Dr. Ulri. Let's just maintain a level of decorum here and professionalism. So please use my YSU email listed above. I check my email for about an hour every day. My various emails and whatnot. I have my email open for that time. Compose emails in formal English and strive toward professionalism in all correspondence with me and other students. Capitalize the first letter of every sentence. Use punctuation. Do not use acronyms. You are not texting with me. You are corresponding with me, and I'm effectively kind of like your boss, even though I don't seem very boss-like. An undergraduate degree is an exercise in professionalization, and I want you to write clearly. I want you to write with power, and I want you to write with professionalism, and I want those skills to follow you in your daily life. The reality of it is, I will stress quite a bit of writing because I once was a writing teacher. And when I was in graduate school, I used to actually be a high school English teacher. And sometimes I even still substitute teach English in high schools because I like to be in the classroom and I like to stay sharp and I like to see what different people are doing in different classrooms. but I'm by training and by inclination a writing professor. So why do I stress writing in a religion course? Well, most of the way we interact with religion is through writing and through reading, but it's also that I want you to have these writing skills, because at some point you're going to have to write an email to get your kid into an accelerated program or into a special ed course. At some point you're going to have to write an email and have a cover letter to get a job. If you can't write clearly, you will be ground to death by this world and people will step all over you. So I see teaching writing and teaching writing with power and clarity to not just be about fulfilling academic tasks, but to enable you to be more effective human beings in the world. I'm your biggest fan. I want you to succeed. I want you to succeed in life, and I want you to succeed in this class. And I'm constantly working to try to give you the tools for you to be not only successful, but to be more successful. Every class should turbocharge you in one aspect of your life and your knowledge or another. And for me, I want you to be able to speak articulately and think clearly about religion, but I also want you to have the wherewithal to be professional writers. Okay. So this is the coronavirus syllabus statement. We are in 2021, so the coronavirus is with us. Now, we won't have a lot of difficulties with the coronavirus because we're operating asynchronously and we're operating through the internet. But if you have problems that are coronavirus related, let me know as soon as possible. I am here for you. Okay, let's read over the course description. What is religion? What are religions? So notice religion with a big R. What is religion with little r? There's a lot of implication there. What's the difference between God with a big G and God with a little g? So which are the main religions? And what does it mean to be a main or major or great religion or world religions? If you are doing Buddhist religion, is it the same as doing Jewish religion? Notice I'm saying you do religion. Religion is something you do, not something you think, not something you believe. Despite our Christian sort of focus and underpinnings in this world. I mean, I'm a Protestant Christian. I'm ethnically Protestant. Religion is very much about belief. But as we wander around the world and listen to people, we see that religion is really about what people do, or even what they identify as. Religion is their identity. It's more than the way you think or the way you feel. So are prayer and meditation the same? What's the difference between a mantra and a hymn? Do Hindu folk understand an Om, the sacred syllable of the Hindus, to be like a crucifix? Are miracles and revelation limited to the past when God was closer to man? Or do miracles and does revelation continue to this day? What is a holy man or woman? And how does charisma shape religious innovations? Can mystic experience be reduced to altered states of consciousness? And if so, what are the role of entheogens and psychedelics? How do drugs and intoxication even come into our understandings of religion and revelation? Can other beings inhabit a human body? And can that possession be a good thing and not a negative one? I know we think about possession as just being the stuff of the exorcist or of demonic possession, but can possession be benevolent? Can it be good? Can God take over a body? Can a spirit take over a body? Can a spirit being take over a body for a positive reason? Can other beings from the stars contact humans? And how might they compare to other sky beings in the past? God up and high. What happens when God comes down in a flying saucer? Yeah, we're going to talk about aliens and magic and possession. It's going to be fun. What do you do with a dead human body? I mean, really, what are the different ways that we dispose of bodies? And what happens when an entity dies? Where do they go? What occurs? Can we locate active religious discourse outside scripture? Can religion happen outside of a church? Can we find religion in movies, comic books, and online media? I'll say, yeah. Are religious folk looking to make sense of their world, or are they looking to dominate their world? That's a big distinction. These types of questions are the engine for this course. But the destination we're taking is unclear. Where you end up at the end of the course will be somewhere different from how you thought about religion at the beginning. But I'm not sure where you're going to end up. I'm going to march us through this, but we're going to end in very different places. Together, we are going to destabilize our understanding of religion and religions. We are aiming to see the world a bit clearer and to recognize worlds previously unseen. This course has gone very well in the past, and I expect it to go well this time. But one thing will be sure, it's going to be a trip. A few words are required on the history and context of such courses as world religions. World religions is a classic course in religion and religious studies departments, even philosophy departments. But the course title has a troubling history in which only those religions considered to affect history are considered a world religions. Contents in world religions course are usually limited to Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, since Western history is the real history. Though sometimes you'll see a little bit of Buddhism, maybe some Hinduism, never Jainism or Sikhism or folk religions and animism. Animism, the belief that there is a soul in everywhere and everything. So we don't see varied Chinese religions and African religions, let alone esoteric or secret traditions. Especially troubling in world religions course is the elision and the forgetting and the not even addressing of First Nations religions in the Americas. First Nations meaning the Native American traditions. Privileging religions in this manner defers to and supports not only colonial depictions of the world, but Western chauvinism. Another approach, equally problematic, only teaches religions that are considered non-Western. I argue, and I execute in this, a proper world religions course abandons such rankings and categories in favor of studying whatever and whenever creates insights about religion. I will take any data that will help us understand what is religion and teach that in a world religions course. This world religions course eschews preoccupations with distinctions such as monotheism and polytheism, East and West, historical and ahistorical, or faith and works. This course is not divided by discrete religious boundaries. In fact, religions are nowhere near as distinct as we think they are when we first look at them. We will study religions in and of the world, not world religions. Religious discourse is diffuse and vast, the very stuff that makes up our cultures and our very minds. Religions are not all the same, but folk universally encounter stuff deemed religious, and their reactions to that encounter make up and shape their worldviews. Based on the Comparing Religions textbook by Jeffrey Kripal, we will develop a method to interpret and compare religious contents, placing emphasis on what folk do rather than what they think or believe. Religious discourse and rituals, mostly pulling from Indian religions, will be used as case studies, applying the methods explored in lectures and the textbook. So, I will set forth arguments about the history of religion and religious studies from Jeffrey Kripal, and then I'm going to present a lot of material from my own specialty, which is Hinduism, to kind of work out those ideas. So you'll have theory and then application. You'll have ideas and then case studies of religions in the world where we kind of try to work out some of those ideas. The Asian orientation has the benefit of grounding our study in non-Western perspectives, eschewing predominant norms or a Western bias. Course activities compare case studies with religious experiences in the United States informed by our own opinions and experiences. So we'll look at all this stuff and then we'll say, well, now how do we understand our own religions or our own context in the West? A good religious studies course makes the strange familiar and the familiar strange. This course aims not to fill students' heads with details about diverse religions, but to develop skills enabling students to richly interpret religious phenomenon and to actively cultivate religious literacy. These are lifelong tools. You will use them throughout your life after this. I swear to you. You'll come back to me and you'll write me an email in 3 years and be like, okay, it was kind of relevant. All right, Dr. Ulrich. Some of you will write and be like, wow, that really did change the way I think about things. Others of you will be like, okay, that was useful. We'll see. Maybe not. Who knows? Course materials include Jeffrey Kripal's Comparing Religions, an exciting and controversial textbook by an exciting controversial scholar. This book spans religious traditions and traditional boundaries using religious studies theories to reveal themes, comparisons, and contrasts across religious data. It even talks about aliens and superpowers, which is kind of great. Each module explores a chapter of Jeffrey Kripal's textbook and has some case studies. Assignments apply Kripal's theories to case studies, but then will interpret one's own religious experience. one's own experiences of Western religion, or to make large interpretations of religions, society, and cultures. While we study the religions of others, we become aware that this study also interprets ourselves. What are my objectives? What are the objectives for the course? Students will be able to swab it. Students will be able to explore the development of the history of religions, religious studies, world religions, and intellectual history. You'll critically reflect on these disciplines. You will develop techniques of quality and responsible comparison, including what makes an effective comparison as opposed to an ineffective comparison. Students will be able to articulate cohesive theses arguments that illuminate all topics, avoiding the dreadful argument that I will continually critique, saying, same, but different. These two religions are the same, but they have differences. You've been taught to make that argument throughout your high school and even through college, to say, these are the same, but they are different. But that's not really an argument. It's an observation that doesn't do any work. I'm going to try to get you to make more clear and nuanced arguments that teach more than just saying these are the same, but they're different. Students will evaluate and organize evidence. I want you to look at the types of evidence you use and figure out the best ways to use the evidence that you use. Students will identify unexpected religions and aspects of religion. Especially, we're going to look at the religions of India. All the while, students will interrogate divisions of East and West, noting common themes and divergences. World religions courses traditionally ignore Asian religions outside of particular forms of Buddhism. That will make more sense to you as the class progresses. I want you to identify, students will be able to identify non-traditional realms of religious experience and discourse. I want you to look at media. I want you to look at the arts. I want you to look at the paranormal. I want you to look at the esoteric and the occult, the secret religions, the ufological, the visitors, civil religion, the religions of our country and the religion of civil society and the religion of the state. We're going to look at the vernacular as opposed to the literary. The vernacular meaning the spoken, the language, the religions of common discourse as opposed to the religions of scripture, and so forth. I want you to articulate theoretical themes such as polytheism, religion on the ground, literary versus vernacular, pragmatic ritual technologies or magic, the effect of colonialism when Europe basically took over the world for 400 years, and we are still emerging from that colonial period. The literary versus the vernacular, as I said before. Religion and modernity, how does religion adapt to modern times, and so on. I want you to explore religion, living religions depicted in the practices, texts, and sites and media artifacts of religious people. I want you to gain a broad appreciation of how religions interact in and with history. Students will be able to write in multiple genres about religions, expand critical writing skills in conjunction with effective research. Finally, students will be able to identify the religious underpinnings of contemporary cultures and worldviews in the United States, so the contemporary world. What are our course materials? We're going to have Jeffrey Kripal's Comparing Religions, Coming to Terms. This is the best textbook on world religions I've ever read, and a year or two back, I just went through and I just read every world religions course I could get my hands on, and it's the best one, and I keep teaching it and it keeps being the best one. And also this tiny little book, Strunk and White's Elements of Style. Many of you might already have this book. It's tiny, it's concise, it's really, really useful, and it gives you direct instruction on writing, grammar, and rhetoric. Also, a little bit of story of the book. It's by a guy named Strunk and his student White. Well, William Strunk was a teacher at Columbia, and he had this very good student, E.B. White. You may remember his name because he wrote the book Charlotte's Web, a contemporary classic. And it is beautiful in its style and its concision and its use of language. Well, these two E.B. White actually found these sort of handouts that his teacher had given him, and he bound them up and put them into a book and wrote a couple of essays about them, and by which we have Strunk and White. Use it often. Refer to it. I will refer to it in our writing instruction in this class. Use it often. It will serve you well. It will never serve you wrong. Other materials will be provided by the professor on Blackboard, so those will be sort of online. These materials may change throughout the course. Students are required to maintain reliable internet and a working computer device. It's an online class. A laptop or a desktop is preferable, for phones and tablets are not reliable for all the course tasks. You'll find that Blackboard, there's an app for Blackboard that does make it work better, but your tablets and phones sadly it's hard to read on them. It's really hard to compose on them. If at all possible, you should really sit at a laptop or a desktop to kind of do the tasks. But you got to do what you got to do. And we live in COVID time, so do what you got to do. Should a movie or documentary be assigned that is not on YouTube? The students are responsible for acquiring access via streaming services. I think I only have one video that is on Netflix that you're going to need to get access to. In my experience, students don't have too much trouble getting that. Everybody knows somebody that gets Netflix. Okay, what are the assignments? All right, online courses require more student activities than in-person courses. This is sort of a trade-off for doing a class at your own pace, on your own terms, and your own preferred location. Each lesson will consist of readings, multimedia introductory materials, lectures, a discussion forum, and an assignment. You will be asked to perform weekly assessments of the course and your performance that week. I call these exit tickets. This will all make sense. In addition, you will have a midterm and a final paper. I'm not planning on any midterm or final exams. Now, let's be clear on this. It's not going to be a research paper. It's going to be more of like a take-home midterm and a take-home final. All right, so though we will be writing online, students should approach all assignments and communication with the professor and other students as if these were formal papers, handed in on paper, handed in, submitted in class. Use standard grammar, spelling, punctuation. Do not use acronyms or internet/text speak. All written works should be revised at least once, i.e. read them over and edit them before you hit the submit button. Cut and paste should only be used for direct quotes, and any direct quotes need to be cited. In general, students who use cut and paste when they're cutting and pasting from PDFs or internet sources or whatnot tend to screw things up and not cite them properly. So I would argue you should never use cut and paste. Just don't do it. I will guarantee you a number of you will plagiarize, and that's a problem. And if it's blatant, I will fail you. And I'll have a statement about this later. But I would say the majority of plagiarism cases can be prevented just by not using cutting and paste. Just don't cut and paste, especially don't cut and paste from Wikipedia. I will catch you every time. Students are expected to read every word assigned, but this is really rarely possible in practice. I suggest that you read with a purpose. This means pre-read by skimming, then only read the material most relevant to the topic. So what I actually find really effective with this is I will give you some directions in every reading assignment, so you're not just like, well, what am I supposed to read for? I will give you some stuff I want you to look for. But what I think you should really do is look at the module, see what I'm assigning, look at the objectives. I'll always give you the objectives, and then look at the assignments. Then look to the assignments to see if those assignments, directly relate to specific reading tasks. If they do, when you do your first read through, knowing what you're going to be asked in the assignments, you can read looking to do those tasks. Okay. Yes, read in detail and take notes on important topics, especially when course materials appear relevant for, your written projects. Optional and recommended reading assignments are truly optional. So if I say something's recommended or optional, you're not going to be assessed on it, but they're good for you. They're interesting. I put extra readings on there that are recommended, realizing that very few students will read them. But if you're interested, take a reading, learn a little bit more. One student suggested that I actually have a section in every module called Tidbits. Just has extra stuff you can look into. It's not a bad idea. I don't know if I'm going to do it this semester. Okay. If your schedule permits, reading the group and short writing assignments before you do reading the assignments before you do the writing might help you focus your reading and note-taking. Supporting multimedia videos and news articles are meant to support the lecture. Warming the student up for lecture topics. Whenever possible, videos will show rituals and practices, portray religious sites, and support discussion or short assignments. So most of the modules will look like this. You'll open it up. You will see a bunch of introductory videos. Well, you'll see your reading assignment with some reading questions to guide your reading. Then you'll see my objectives. Then you'll have some warm-up videos. So videos to get you thinking about the lecture. Then I'll give you the PowerPoint that I'll be reading on the lecture. You'll have the lecture. Then you'll have a discussion forum or a group writing project, which is what I like to call them because that's really what they are. And then you will have a short assignment, and then you'll have an exit ticket for once a module at the end of the module, and then you'll have the assignment for next time. That's what they'll generally look like. All this will make sense when you start doing the class. All right, lectures will range in length, but they will always have a PowerPoint, audio, and video. I'm an energetic speaker, and I hope you'll find the lectures enjoyable. Most students actually like them. Do not expect a monotone voice over a dreary PowerPoint. I am committed to bringing my high-impact performances from the lecture hall directly to your assignment. This video you're watching right now will be the most boring one, I swear. I will make sure you have a PDF of the PowerPoint before you watch the lecture, because a lot of students like to take notes on those PowerPoints. Now, discussion boards are never really discussions, despite their promise to stimulate or simulate in-person discussions. They don't really do that. Think of the discussion boards as group writing projects. You will be asked to make an original post and then expand upon other students' posts. Refrain from passing judgments, i.e., I don't want you to write, I think this is good, or proclaiming value. This is interesting. Just throw out, this is good, I like it, or this is interesting. Just don't even write those. Just go right into expanding on the original post. Your task is to expand on posts, making further arguments, providing more data, or critiquing the arguments and asking further questions. Often you will be required to cite sources and bring in further research to support your posts and replies. Again, this is not really a discussion as you would have in class, but it's group writing in which students react, complicate, and add data, add evidence to the assigned task and the the writings of other students. Discussion boards will also be used for writing support. That will make more sense when we do it. Each group writing assignment will have a rubric. I always have a rubric for you, and you'll have that in advance so you know exactly what you're going to be asked to do. And while these are group assignments, students will only be assessed on their own performance. It is not, I'm not grading you as how, like in little groups. Almost every lesson will have a short writing assignment, mostly informal and creative, using multiple styles and genres. Writing tasks may include writing a school newspaper article, writing a letter to a friend, making a movie pitch, an anthropology field report, and so forth. You'll also be asked to make videos and memes. The make a meme assignment is always some of the students' favorites, where you'll make a meme and then explain the meme, and it's fun. Often these assignments will require you to engage the contents and then react from your own perspective, or compare contents to your own experiences. My main goal in these assignments is to get you to reprocess the materials and then do something with them. Each short writing, like I said, will have a rubric as well. Community is hard to build online, and professors struggle to get feedback when they cannot directly interact with students in person. This being the case, you will be asked and you'll be assigned a weekly assessment of the course. That will be, you assess the lectures, the readings, the assignments, and you give your own self-assessment. If you do them, you get points. They won't have a word count. They won't have a rubric. I use these in several ways. Either I use them to make adjustments to course design, reading and assignments. I also use it to nuance my assessment of student performance, and also just to interact with students, about the course and about how you're doing in the course and how you're doing in general. So those are a chance for you can critique me, you can mouth off at me. I don't care. I want to hear how you're doing and what's going on in the course so I can help you succeed. I'm always gaming this course to help you succeed, I swear. This isn't a gotcha course. I want you to do well. I want you to get good grades. Students will write a midterm and final take-home exams, and in both of these, you will perform comparison, and we'll talk a lot about what it means to compare religions. Students are encouraged to make use of the YSU Writing Center. Use that link for longer assignments, though the writing assignments, you can use the YSU writing assignment for longer assignments, like your take-home midterm and take-home final, but you can use it in any of your assignments in the course. As you can see, the module tasks above cause students to process course material 4 times. You read it initially, you watch videos, you watch the lecture, then you apply it in some sort of writing task. 4 times you look at the material. As you can see, the module tasks cause students to process the material 4 times. Furthermore, there are a lot of chances to acquire points. And this is the key. I've never had a student who had just done all the assignments to some degree of completeness that got a poor grade on the course. If you want to do well in the course, just do everything I ask. That's it. There's no crazy tests. I'm not asking anything nuts. So you just do what I ask, turn in all the assignments. I can almost guarantee you a good grade. All right, grades are weighted in the following scale. Discussion and short assignment and exit tickets make up roughly 70% of your grade. So if you keep up on your weekly work, you'll do fine. The rest of your grade, roughly 40%, consists of midterms and finals. As the course progresses, I will weight assignments differently based on complexity and importance of the assignment. Should you complete all the assignments, a passing grade is assured. Passing, absolutely. There's no way to fail if you just do everything. All right, this is an asynchronous course, so attendance will not be tracked in the traditional manner. You're responsible for fulfilling the assigned tasks before deadlines. Unsubmitted work will be graded as 0 at the time I grade it. Do not get behind because it's really hard to catch up. Communication with the professor is key. Extensions are decided on a case-to-case basis should a student contact the professor before the deadlines pass. No extension will be granted if the professor is contacted after the deadline. Seriously, the minute you are under pressure and you're in danger of falling behind, contact me. We will make a plan for success. We will adjust so you can be successful. Now, also, keep in mind the Blackboard tracks and reports the number of times you access the software and the time engaged. So I know exactly how much time you've spent working on that class. And I do take that into mind when I'm grading and when I'm assessing whether I should give you an extension. Like I said, extensions and accommodations. If you contact me in advance of the deadline, we will work it out. Absolutely. I am here for you. All right, policy regarding plagiarism. All assignments submitted must represent a student's own work. Plagiarism is a serious offense and will be dealt with accordingly. If you use the words or ideas of others without proper citation of your source, you may be suspended. You may not, you'll fail the assignment if you plagiarize. You could fail the class. You could even fail out of the university if it's particularly egregious and repetitive cases of plagiarism. So I take this seriously, and if I suspect you have included any amount of material from uncredited sources, I will investigate rigorously. Just don't do it. Don't copy and paste ever in any of your assignments. Copy and paste misuse is at the root of almost all inadvertent plagiarism. Do not mine internet sources for material to use in your assignments. Anytime you use information from a web page or an online source or even a book, you must either quote it directly and cite it, so put quotes around the statement, or you must rewrite and paraphrase it, but still put a parenthetical citation. You must cite all times you use someone else's work or someone else's ideas. Trust me, your professors want you to cite more. You can never cite too much. Any instance of plagiarism can amount to dramatic repercussions, not excluding failing the course and even expulsion from the university. I always prefer evidence and quotes from course materials rather than outside sources, except in occasions when I specifically ask for outside research. The majority of the times, just cite what the course materials are. Don't go and get external citations. That's where students mess up. They pull from other materials online and Wikipedia and whatnot, and it's fine to consult online sources. Just don't use them in your writing, because when you start using all those other sources, you'll get stuff wrong. You'll use bad sources. There'll be sources that are hard to use. There'll be sources that will contradict the course materials. It will mess. There'll be materials that are inappropriate for the assignment. Just use the materials I give you, and you'll do great. All right, I will enable anti-plagiarism software on all of your assignments, and this will check your work against other YSU students, student paper databases worldwide, and across public sites and across the internet. Should the software flag a student warning, I will automatically investigate. So I'm using internet tools to look for plagiarism. If those tools tell me there is a chance of plagiarism, I will investigate and I'll come after you. Should the software flag student writing, I will initiate an investigation. One of the other reasons for this is people lose their jobs for this. If you are writing professionally in your work and someone suggests you of using someone else's work or of plagiarizing, you can lose your job. You can even lose your career. So there's a really quality library resource for the MAG library at this link for avoiding plagiarism. And it also has instances in the professional world of people who have lost their jobs. And I don't want you to lose your jobs. And I don't want you to fail out of the university. And I don't want you to plagiarize. And I want you to do well, and I want you to succeed. They also have a number of free plagiarism checker softwares that you can use, that you can find on the website. So now, big note, pay attention here. If you're a student with a documented learning disability or learning difference, as we now say, which is better, and would like to discuss special accommodations, contact me. Contact me at the beginning of the course. I will accommodate you. If I'm dyslexic myself, so I know this world, and I've worked quite a bit in what we call in special ed or SPED, and I am happy to develop accommodations with any student, for any student with a documented learning difference. I'm really open to it. Also, if you're an ESL student, English as a second language, discuss this with me. If you don't self-advocate, I can't help you. I take these accommodations really seriously, and I will do my best to help you. Understand that I understand the hardships of writing in a foreign language, since my own work and my own training has been learning numerous, often archaic Asian languages. I get what it's like. I've had classes in Hindi. I've had classes in Tibetan. And those are not my mother tongues. They're not my father tongues. They are tongues I've learned well into my adult life. It's very difficult to write in English as a second language, and I will work with you on that. Okay, here are all those standard YSU sort of things. All right, I want to quickly go through our week-to-week modules, and then let's set you free. All right, so first module, this is what we're doing today. Now, then we're going to go into the day 2 of this module, where we're going to talk about what is religious studies? What does it mean to compare a religion? What is doing versus believing? What is academic versus personal study? And also, what is the weird? I'm going to talk about the weird a lot, the coefficient of weirdness, and how it's really important to look at weird stuff. When we look at religious materials that make us go, what the heck is this? That makes us push the boundaries of what is religion and how we think about religion. Next, we are going to talk about methods, comparison, and lived religions. So for here, we are going to talk about the development of the study of religion in the West, but we're also going to look at one particular case study of Hinduism and talk about what are the things when we're thinking about religion we can look at. And I would say we need to look at lived practices, food practices, what we eat, look at temples, look at goddesses, because we're used to thinking about religion as just being about, God as a man in the sky or as a formless entity or as something that can't be described in Islam in many ways, but is merciful and we must submit to it. Well, let's look at things differently. Now, we're going to look for our case study here at Jainism, and we are going to look at the lives of a couple of Jain folk. And it's going to be cool. You're going to learn about Jainism, and you're going to like Jainism. Everybody kind of does. All right, so we're going to move forward here into our next module, and we're going to talk about what is this field of religious studies and what are the categories of religion. We're going to look at the history of comparative religion, and then we're going to look at the formation of these courses called world religions courses, and we're going to critique them quite vigorously, in fact. Okay, so then we're going to look at what is the nature of culture and some categories for understanding religion. And moving into that, we're going to look at magic, in fact, black magic. And I'm going to assign you a piece I've written, and we are going to talk about these things called the Shatkarmani, or the 6 magical acts, or 6, which is actually, the 6 acts are actually more like 9. So we're going to look at 9 types of magic in India, and that's pretty cool stuff. All right, then we're going to talk about what is myth and what is ritual. And going into that, we're going to look at Vedic ritual, which is a very old style of Hindu practice in which there are no images and there are no permanent locations, and all of the ritual implements that are used in Vedic ritual are then destroyed at the end of the ritual. We're going to watch a really cool ethnography and look to some wild sort of contrasts in Vedic religion. Next, entheogens and altered states of consciousness, or what I call the explosive sacred. Here we're going to talk about how can you cultivate and how can we cultivate altered states of consciousness and the use of entheogens, or plants or drugs and intoxicants that cause people to have mystical visions. On that, we're going to look at 2 cases of possession in India. One I call malicious possession, the malicious dead, bad possession. So, an exorcism. And then we're going to look at benevolent possession, or when deities take over people's bodies and then they are oracles, so they can tell the future, or they can do healing, or by a god possessing a person allows normal folks who aren't possessed to communicate with that god. Next, we are going to look at the flesh, Tantra, and yoga. We're going to do 3 classes on here. So we're going to think about what it means to use the body for religion and locate religion in bodily practices. And to that extent, we're going to look at Tantra, the tantric body, and sexual rituals. And we're going to watch a really cool video on Netflix about tantric sex and how it might not be all that it's cracked up to be, and might be quite manipulative and might be quite, I don't know, wicked. Yeah, the notion of Tantra is in contemporary culture, people talk about Tantra as everlasting orgasms and sacred sexuality. But in fact, Tantra in its traditional context in India is not about the results, and it's not about orgasms, it's not about connecting with your partner, but it's about developing magic powers and bodily immortality. On that note, then we're going to look at yoga. Now, the contemporary yoga of, I don't know, of yoga pants and bendy positions and flexibility is not what yoga looks like in India. We're going to look at the history of the yogic body and the different types of results that we find from people practicing yoga, which is mostly magic powers and bodily immortality. Once again, you're going to see that I go back to magic and magic powers quite a bit. All right, and then we're going to have our take-home final, which is going to ask you to, in particular, do a comparison of religious data to this point. Spring break, screwy this year in 2021. COVID-19 has changed everything from YSU. So what's going to happen is I'm not going to actually give you any particular days off. We're just going to run through the class. Boom. We're going to go through all of the modules, and then I'm going to give you a week in which you're not going to have any assignments. You're not going to have any lectures. You're not going to have any readings. You're just going to work on your take-home final, and that's going to be it. And doing some of the extra credit works, I'm going to give you the chance to go back and do. And if you have a plan for success because you've gotten behind in that week, you'll have time to catch up. Okay, next we're going to move into, and things start getting real. I mean, things have been cool, but things are going to get really wild from here on out. We're going to look at charisma, gurus, and cults. We're going to look at a couple of Hindu gurus who came to the West and the history of them. We're also going to look at what makes a religious leader and what makes a charismatic religious leader. And ultimately, we are going to look at cults. Now, the word cult doesn't just mean a small religion. It comes from the Latin word cultus, the Greek's word, which is based in the Greek as well. And it means to offer worship. So we're going to look at what traditionally, when people use the word cult, it means offering worship to something. But in particular, we are going to talk about the contemporary use of the word cult as what I define as an antisocial, high control, new religious movement. Last time I taught this, the students really got into this section. Next, aliens and human potential. So what is the paranormal? What is the encounter with aliens and people who say they're abducted by aliens and are taken on alien spaceships? I'm going to argue that these are in fact contemporary mystic movements, and we're going to dig into that. And then we're going to talk about mental magic, something different from the mental rituals before, and human potential. So how do humans in the contemporary world exhibit magical powers? And how might people performing magic and having magical powers be the roots of actual religious experience to this day? Then we're going to talk about death and the afterlife. In fact, we're going to talk about what is the nature of the soul and a theoretical idea that Kripal has about what we call the human as two, and we'll get into that. And we will roll that up by looking at conscious death techniques and death consciousness. In particular, we'll look at the Tibetan Book of the Dead and the different Tibetan Buddhist sort of notions of how one can die consciously and project one's soul into another life or another lifetime. Then we're going to talk about the politics of religion. So moving away from that very weird world into a very this worldly place where we'll talk about religious nationalism. Specifically, we're going to talk about Hindu nationalism and violence that's perpetrated between Hindus and Muslims in India. But we're also going to think about how religion and politics operate in our Western world and our American world. And we've been living through some very volatile times, and students actually get a chance to kind of think about those volatile times that we've been living through and what they have to do with religion. As we're wrapping up the course, we're going to look at how to interpret religion and religious tolerance. So we did religious violence, and now we're going to look at religious tolerance. And we're going to talk about how we can interpret religion, thinking about psychology and sociology. And our case study there is actually going to look at one religious festival in which Hindus perform in ostensibly Muslim rituals in India. And we're going to look at how Hindus and Muslims can overlap a lot more than folks would initially think, especially in the violence that we looked at in the prior class. And our last big module is called Wondrous Religion. Here, we are going to think about religion and how we might think more widely about religion. And an argument that I'm really interested in is how can religion inspire wonder in the world? And in fact, we're going to read this really cool section by Tulsi Srinivas in a wonderful book she wrote called The Cow in the Elevator, in which she talks about how technology in contemporary, right now, India is used to enhance temple worship and enhance people's relationships with the gods in India. And finally, we will conclude. What is the future? How can we reinterpret religion in new and exciting ways? And in fact, how can the weird be useful? And we will sort of wrap up by thinking about ways that religion can bring us together, can foster comparison, but how we need to be careful in how we think about religion, because if we are too dogmatic in our thinking, or too specific in our thinking, or too intolerant in our thinking, we ourselves can contribute to much of the ugliness in the world. But I think religion can inspire wonder and can inspire us to get closer and can bring us together and can maybe even re-enchant the world. Maybe there is still magic in the world if we look to the weird, the odd, the skies. And that'll be the class. And you'll write a take-home final, and they'll be good because we have great material to work with. So we're going to march through all of this kind of fun, wacky stuff. But remember, the stakes are big here. Some students come to this class and go, why should I study all of this weird stuff? Because the stakes are high. This is how we understand the history of Western culture and Eastern culture. This is how we understand one another so we can be tolerant. This is also so we can critique overt tolerance that reduces all religion to just one thing, because religions are different. This is how we can be good citizens in the world, how we can meet the other and connect to others. And it's about a great journey. And we're going to go on it together. And it's going to be fun, and it's going to be good. And I think y'all are going to like it. The last time I taught this at YSU, it was a really positive course, and students really came out of it really liking it. So I'm looking forward to getting to know all of you, and let's have a good spring 2021. All right, I will see you on Wednesday. Take care.